So thank you all for attending. A big welcome to our panel of leaders. My name is Peter Mansell. I have the pleasure of leading our digital workplace practice at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. I hope the event today provides you with some really good guidance on how you can develop the future of digital work. So let me go on and welcome our panel today and get this live event started. So Keith, could I start with you to just ask you to introduce yourself to the people watching?
You bet. Hey everyone, Keith White. I run the Green Lake business here at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. I've been here for about 18 months. Prior to that, I was 25 plus years at Microsoft. So really excited to share our experience with you today.
Excellent. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. And Rashmi, could I ask you to do the introductions next, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Peter. I'm Rashmi Kumar, SVP and Global Chief Information Officer at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. I've been here for almost 3 years now, and prior to that, I have various IT leadership experience in many different industries.
Excellent, thank you. Looking forward to hearing some of your answers today. That's great. And then we've got two of our key partners joining us today as well. So Calvin, could I get you to go ahead and introduce your role, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me here with this event. Great to be here. My name is Calvin Chu. I am the Vice President of Product Management here at Citrix. Been with Citrix now coming up on 17 years. And have been partnering with HP for a long time to deliver solutions out here. Primarily been working in the desktop virtualization VDI space, now evolving into desktop as a service and the digital workplace. So, great to spend this time here with my peers and colleagues.
Excellent. Thank you, Calvin. Appreciate you joining us. And last but not least, Gio, would you like to go ahead and introduce your role, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Giovanni Mesgets. I'm with Microsoft. I'm a general manager in the Modern Workplace team. And hopefully today we're going to have a great discussion on what's the future of work and what we shall do together to be as productive as we can.
Excellent. Welcome, Gio, and thank you for joining. So let me move on to my opening question for our panel here today. So I wanted to look a little bit about some of the challenges that we've seen our customers face, particularly in the acceleration to remote work around the pandemic. And I thought, given we've got somebody that's responsible for running a very large IT organization, I'd ask Rashmi to pick up this question first. So can you just take us through some of the challenges you faced enabling HP to switch to more of a remote work approach?
Thank you, Peter, and that's a great question. I'm pretty sure a lot of my colleagues who are listening here would connect and understand the topic that I'm going to talk about here. We got a little bit lucky, I would say, as the events in Beijing unfolded in January, and I'm fortunate to have a strong IT leadership team where the team realized that what happens if this becomes global? Our main challenges when lockdown happened in Beijing in January were more around having the capability to connect for our employees from home. Our infrastructures were running fine, but ISPs were overloaded. And we shipped out cell phones, we provide different connectivity options, but the points kind of were choking. But irrespective of that, it gave us time to really assess the infrastructure more from network perspective and VPN perspective, that if we had to do it for our 60,000 employees and 20,000 contractors, how we will transition to this work from home mode. That enables to assess the infrastructure and make changes as needed. And fortunately, we were ready when March 14th hit. The other challenges were that at HPE, we are in the middle of a very large transformation, and we are implementing a global ERP, which takes at least 2,000 to 3,000 people on a major go-live weekend to work together. And we create in-person co-location centers in EMEA because that's where our customers were who were being deployed on the system, as well as in Houston, which was kind of the major command center of the program, and majority of the workforce in India. Guess what? When the lockdown was announced, everybody was at home and working together to launch this major release of a global ERP. I think the nature of the company that we have here at HP and the resiliency that employees have developed, as well as our partners through many transformation journey that we have been on, we were able to execute it flawlessly. But then what hit us was multifaceted challenges. So how our sales team will collaborate with our customers. This came up in one of the all-employee meeting that Antonio hosted. The other technological aspects of things where now people are working from home. Now their desktops or PCs are used for multiple purposes, just then being on home and connected to a work network. So what kind of security issues we might face? And we had to quickly turn around and implement cloud proxy capabilities because we saw malware activities growing up 300% because bad actors were knowing that employees will have vulnerabilities as they work from home. So I just wanted to explain the multifaceted nature of this challenge and the actions that we need to take across, I would say, people, process, and technology areas to continue the company operations.
Excellent. Thanks, Rashmi. Yeah, some great insight there. Really interested on that kind of people, process, technology thing, because I think all of those three play a critical part in driving consumption. So thank you for sharing that. So Keith, could I move on to you and just maybe ask from your perspective, you're obviously driving the as a service transformation inside HPE. What sort of challenges have you seen HPE customers face over the last 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, Rashmi really hit on some key areas, but the reality is a lot of customers, as she mentioned, were going through their digital transformation and modernizing their environments. And I think the pandemic really sort of hit and exposed a lot of holes that IT had, and they had to fill those holes. And I think Rashmi gave you some good examples of that. But in essence, we found a few things. One, hey, we need to provide services in a much more effective way so that customers have capacity available. They don't have to have staff going into data centers in order to address and fix those types of issues. And, really, the pandemic hit a lot of industries very differently. So if you think about airline industry or hospitality industry, significant reduction in revenues. Whereas other industries, as Rashmi mentioned, really sort of saw an increase, online retailing, your Zoom and Netflix, as she mentioned before, online gaming. And so in essence, you sort of had an interesting mix across that industry. And so really how that IT organization could respond was really important to how they could adapt to those challenges. And I think the other big thing that it popped was, hey, budgets became very tight. Revenue wasn't coming in. We had to have the right set of costs. And so what we saw was a lot of customers move from sort of standard CapEx purchasing into much more of an as a service, cloud service type scenario in order to make sure that they could, really afford the direction they needed to go to keep the companies running. And at the same time, still provide that high level of security, minimize the latency, et cetera, and really provide the flexibility they needed on that front. So a lot of significant challenges for our customers.
Excellent. Thank you, Keith. Really, really good summary there. So let's move on to one of our partners now. So Gio, just could you take it from a Microsoft perspective and just talk about the challenges that you've seen across your client base and particularly around the remote work aspects?
Yeah, it all started out with everybody wanting to essentially work from home. And there was a period of emergency back last March where our customers are coming to us with a desperate need of, setting up things in such a way where people could work remotely. That meant, how do I work with teams? How do I ship PCs at home? How do I manage them remotely? A whole sets of new problems. Then that kind of stabilized a little bit. And many of the questions that we got from customers were, how do I remain resilient and flexible in a world where I don't know what the future will bring, because we don't know how long we will be in this period of time. In the last 3 months, though, we have seen a shift. And every customer conversation that I've been in, that we've been in as a company, is all about how to make hybrid work really come true. Meaning organizations are trying to prepare for the future where they know pandemic hopefully will go down, hopefully a lot, but certainly down from where we are today. And we will be in a situation where people will work both at home and in the office. And that will make things more complicated in a way, because all the policies, all the technology that we built is for either of those scenarios. Either everybody's in the office or everybody's remote. And now we have, this paradox where everybody wants both at the same time. Our research that we did showed that over 70% of employees want to remain to work from home, at least part-time. At the same time, about 70% of employees also want more collaboration, face-to-face, and interactions with others. So there is this paradox about these two forces coming together. And our customers are asking us to guide us through what the best way to balance these two forces and how to create not only an IT environment, but a culture at the company that helps us thrive in this new world.
Excellent, thank you, Gio. Let me move to our other partner then. So, Calvary, I mean, Citrix are kind of synonymous with remote work and driving engagement forward. Just talk to us about some of the observations you've seen from your customers in this space.
Yeah, well, first I would want to acknowledge that although we specialize in sort of this area of remote work, we do recognize that a lot of our customers have not had that option, right? So there's been a number of industries, whether that's healthcare, manufacturing, groceries, you name it, they've just been in one of those roles where they've had to go in and work on site. All the same, even if they're in one of those categories, no doubt they're interacting with customers, with patients, with colleagues that have had to be remote. So, it's that combination, just as the other panelists were saying, of trying to, figure out how they're able to interact with other folks, how they're able to, carry on with their jobs, even when the people that they rely on are not necessarily sitting in the desk or the cubicle right next to them, and the impact of kind of working in that mixed environment, not just for themselves, but for their interactions with other people. And so one of I think the biggest challenges that we're starting to hear more about now, and especially as people start turning their focus towards hybrid work and having gone through more than a full school year of working from home and having to in many cases deal with younger children and folks that are in need of care, is like, what is that employee engagement and what does that employee experience look like when everything happens through this flat piece of glass that they're dealing with, right? And so that can mean everything from how do I separate my work life from my personal life when it's one device, one screen, one keyboard. How do I know where all my work resources are? Now that everything is being pushed to me digitally, and in fact, we've probably exploded the number of applications that we're delivering to end users as a result of them being remote, because now that's the only way to kind of get in touch with them. And many organizations are sort of building out and accelerating some of their digital transformation in order to address this. But from the employee side, that's more applications coming to them, more things to learn. And if I've one of these people that have switched jobs during the pandemic, that onboarding experience can be very overwhelming. And at the same time, I've got more distractions behind me, right? And I've got kids to deal with, pets to walk, maybe parents to take care of, and so on. So my work day, my experience and my engagement is divided up into smaller and smaller slices throughout the day. That workday may be longer, and the time that I have to kind of get sort of my busy work done is very small, and then I have very limited opportunities to handle that sort of more concentrated amount of time where I really want to focus. So to the extent that our digital workspace tools and our technology capabilities can not only help just give them access to these resources, but also help guide them and kind of structure that for them and help them see and present the work to them in a way that helps them make the most of the limited time that they may have in between various activities, and make the most of the focus time that they have. So I think those are some of the real challenges and things that we're focused on from a Citrix perspective on trying to help as we move forward into this hybrid world of work.
Excellent, thank you, Calvin. Really interesting. There's two themes there. One I heard from you and one I heard from Gio. Firstly, around the kind of work-life balance, and then secondly, around the hybrid office environment that we're going to switch to, or the hybrid workplace. So two really kind of common themes that we hear across a lot of our customers. So let me kind of change gear a little bit and just move towards what have we done as individual organizations or combined partners to actually support our customers in these difficult and challenging times. So Gio, can I start from a Microsoft perspective? Kind of what's been the focus of your organization to help customers in this space?
Yeah, overall, look, it's actually, this is very timely because last week we released a playbook on hybrid work. And we've done some research with our customers, but also within our own organization. We're basically 150,000 people all over the world adapting to this new world. And so we have taken the best practices that we've learned, not only in IT, but also in facility and HR, and wrote essentially a little playbook in terms of these are the things that you should consider as an organization as you face the next 6 to 12 months and try to establish new process and new culture for this hybrid environment that you're in. Not very dissimilar to what Rashmi was talking about before. We also divide in terms of what we can do with people, places, and processes. People is all about how do you build a culture that is both digital and in person? How do you empower a manager to look at data and see what their organization does so that they can behave in different ways to really make sure that they can take the best out of people? In particular, one thing that we're spending a lot of time on is how to make sure that the employee experience is great. And so the wellness of employees, how many hours do they work? What are the times that they meet? How many meetings that they're in? All those things are things that we've learned from our own observations that we're trying to package in our products. From the simple change in Outlook, where now scheduling meeting, if you schedule it instead of an hour, is 45 minutes so that you can have breaks in between meetings, to build new systems like Microsoft Viva that actually empower managers to look at what an organization is doing as a whole so that they can change appropriately. So that's on people. On places, we learn tons as we start getting our people in, not only the folks that needed to go in all the time, but now we're starting to have a very different set of needs. For example, in China, 80% of the folks that work for Microsoft in China are in the office. While in Australia, even if COVID is way lower, about 20%. And so we see a lot of different cultural differences that require slight change in processes to make sure that we can capture all this information and provide our employees the best place to work at. Power Apps and Azure really as a backend for many applications that can help in that environment. And then the big one that we get a lot of questions are actually meetings, meeting rooms, spaces. Inclusivity is becoming a very big theme in this world of hybrid. How can I be really part of the team, even if I'm completely on the opposite side of the planet? And what type of room environment, spaces, we need to build in the future to really do this in the most inclusive way. And ultimately processes, right? Digitize everything. In the last 12 to 14 months, what we learn is, you have to digitize as many processes as possible. How do you work with customers? How do you get support? And so we built a bunch of best practices and tools to help customers to do that, as well as how be secure from the ground up. And we're doing a big push on zero trust security so that you can really leave behind the perimeter based kind of security approach to really take identity and device management from the ground up to build an IT infrastructure that is secure, so no matter where people work, they can be their best. So that's what we've done. And the interesting thing to me, again, being in technology for quite a long time, is this is not only a problem for IT. We wrote this playbook together with our HR counterpart and our facility counterparts to really build an environment that is encompassing of all this, so that technology can empower people. People can, buildings and spaces can empower people and have a great culture the manager and HR can build upon in terms of making the organization the best possible.
Excellent. Thanks, Gio. Some great observations there. So Calvin, maybe if I can turn to you now and just say, you talked a little bit about some of the areas of growth for Citrix. How have you adapted the strategy and perhaps the focus to support customers in the last 18 months?
Yeah, I'll actually pick up where Gio left off and saying what we're seeing happening in a lot of our customers is that partnering, in particular with HR leaders, right? And that leveraging of technology to help extend the culture out digitally to folks to enable sort of that outreach and just that sense of, hey, I care about your wellness, I care about your well-being, and creating even little tools within the digital workspace that enable them to accomplish that. So for example, within Citrix Technologies, there's a capability to be able to build these, we call them micro apps, where before an employee returns to office or goes to use their site, they can search for an available desk, and they can self-certify that that they're feeling healthy and or they've got their vaccine, whatever it might be, and simplify some of that process. And when they get on site, they can leave feedback for facilities on was it cleaned, or does an area need some attention, that sort of thing. So sort of that interaction and that quick, valuable feedback built right into their digital work tools. So that's one area. I think we're seeing, hey, there's some creative possibilities here to help in managing the employee engagement and their experience as they do that sort of hybrid work.
So let me move on to the last question for today, which is all around partnering, actually. So we're represented by 3 different organizations here. So I wondered if I could ask Gio to share a little bit about the background between HPE and Microsoft and the partnership itself.
Well, we had a multi-decades relationship between HP and Microsoft. And so, hopefully people have that history and background. And I think, the only thing that I can say now is that relationship is as strong as it's ever been, that we see HP both in terms of breadth of capabilities that they can provide in terms of all the things that HP can do, but also the depth in terms of bringing that capability anywhere on the planet, as key differentiators in terms of customers that work with HP, why they work with HP, and of course, why we work with HP to make our joint customers satisfied on that. So, I think what we know about the future is that we have a tremendous opportunity together. Right? The past will be different. The future will be different than what we've experienced so far. And so we have the opportunity to drive it and really take the next step in terms of how organizations work, what the culture is, what the environment people will want to have to work in. And I think the next 2 to 3 years will be really, really important. We have a tremendous once in a lifetime opportunity to really set a new curve on how people work together. And I think HP and Microsoft and us together can really help, all organizations to bring and to come into this new world. And so I'm very, very excited about all that.
Thanks, Gio. So let's move on to our other partner today, Citrix. So Calvin, it'd be great to get a similar view from you. How do you see the HP and Citrix partnership working?
Yeah, well, like Gio said, similarly, Citrix and HP have gone back decades, really, and but it's been exciting to see how the relationship has evolved and how we show up to a customer together over that time, right? So if I think back, the early days of my career at Citrix, we were kind of just like data center buddies. We'd meet and we'd help build out some infrastructure for a customer, and then we'd walk away, and kind of turn over the keys to the customer, right? But now, it's great to see how we're partnering together really as delivering services together, delivering solutions together. And we're in it for the long haul with that customer. We're partnering with them to understand, what are their growth patterns looking like, where, what sorts of application infrastructure is coming in, what types of use cases, what sorts of networks do we have to address, and not only just building out the infrastructure, but really servicing it and building that into a solution together. And then just the global reach. I'd say we're able to partner on so many continents together and bring that kind of services and solutions partnership to customers wherever they are, and sort of meet them on that journey, whether they're hybrid working or hybrid cloud or whatever type of flexibility that they've got. I think that's really where I've seen the relationship evolve into that end customer value, and so that's terrific. Very excited to continue that work.
Looking forward to it, Calvin. Thank you. So let me come on that question comes to Keith as a final point, really, just around, I know partnership is really critical to GreenLake and the model that we're building in as a service. Could you just talk about that partnership model in general and specifically Microsoft and Citrix working?
Absolutely, Peter. Yeah, in essence, as digital delivery becomes the new normal, it is all about connectivity. And what you heard today is it's all about the user experience. And I think the way that Calvin and Gio just sort of nailed it was the customer expects us to already be fully integrated to deliver that solution, to deliver that user experience to them in that way. And so what I love about the companies is we get together, we make sure that it's the right solution for the customer. We make sure it's optimized. We make sure that it's going to deliver what they specifically need. And we take all the experience from the company. And, this term partnership is, you can talk about alliances and those types of things. These have really evolved into deep, customer outcomes and deep integration with respect to the technology, so that what gets delivered is that true customer value at the end of the day. So, it's part of our DNA. We talk now about co-selling, if you will. It's not really about co-selling. It's about co-delivering the customer's requirements. And I just think that the relationships, because they're so long and so strong, you're really seeing the value of that across the board. And again, I think there's nothing but upside to help our customers be successful with what their key challenges are here in the digital workspace. So thanks.
Thank you, Keith. So great discussion today. Big thanks to the panel, actually, to Keith, Rashmi, Calvin, and Gio. Really great insights into that future of digital work. So I hope it's provided all of you watching with some useful insights on how you take that next step and how you create it. We've got lots of great content coming throughout the rest of the event today, as well as follow-up topics as well. So please stay with us and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.